Hello and welcome. What chance is there a surge of US troops in Afghanistan could defeat the Taliban and militant insurgents? It's a question challenging the Obama administration, which is looking to send another 30,000 soldiers into a frontier that's being described as another Vietnam. To complicate things, Kyrgyzstan has just confirmed it will close a key American base that was crucial for supplying US troops operating in Afghanistan. As the US looks for a new supply route, it's also asking NATO members to step up by contributing more of their own troops. Nearly 600 American lives have already been lost in Afghanistan, and the situation is growing more violent as the country heads into national elections this August. On Sunday, US Army General David Petraeus said that the situation had deteriorated rapidly since 2007 and is currently in a downward spiral. We'll look at America's shifting priorities from Iraq to Afghanistan under the Obama administration and ask what more the international community should be doing and whether or not the US has already lost its way. Remember, you can join our conversation with your questions and comments. Log on to livestation.com/AJE, enter the chat room, and then take part. And we also welcome your phone calls on the show. Well, joining me to discuss this is the former US Ambassador Zalmay Khalilzad. Under President George W. Bush, Ambassador Khalilzad served as America's top diplomat in Afghanistan, Iraq, and then at the United Nations. Now he's a counselor at the Center for Strategic and International Studies. Ambassador, good to have you here.
Well, it's good to be with you, Reza.
Thank you, sir. Well, the Obama administration is planning another 30,000 troops for Afghanistan. What difference do you think that will make? Can a surge there, as it's being seen, also work the way it was supposed to have worked in Iraq?
Well, as a part of a comprehensive approach, it can make a difference because what Afghanistan faces is an insurgency. And an effective counterinsurgency strategy requires that you're not only able to clear an area, but to be able to hold it and to build. At the present, there are not enough forces in Afghanistan coalition and Afghan forces to carry out an effective counterinsurgency strategy. But you also need, of course, progress on other elements of an effective strategy, political, economic, also a regional approach. So as an element of a comprehensive approach, it can make a big difference.
Well, Ambassador, the Afghan defense minister said that the US surge in Iraq simply forced extremists and insurgents to flee Iraq and head off into Afghanistan, and that suddenly there was a load of foreign fighters showing up there as well. Isn't there a risk that Afghanistan could suffer a similar thing, perhaps even going into Pakistan?
Well, there is some truth to what the minister has said, because as the pressure on the extremists and terrorists increased in Iraq, some of the Al-Qaeda folks did go from Iraq to Afghanistan and to Pakistan. But I believe that in Afghanistan, success requires not only more forces, but also cooperation between Afghanistan and Pakistan, because the two countries' problems have become intertwined. There are the Taliban and Al-Qaeda folks that are active on the Pakistani side, and they also use Pakistan as a base of operation to attack Afghanistan and from Afghanistan to go to Pakistan. So when I said that you need a comprehensive strategy, I very much meant that you have to have an Afghan and Pakistan strategy as part of a step to move in the right direction.
Which it seems President Obama is doing. He says it's a regional issue which involves Pakistan, Afghanistan, Iran, right, and has basically appointed Richard Holbrooke for that. Do you think that comprehensive approach to the region is going to be more successful?
Well, one element that the new administration has emphasized has been this recognizing the intertwinedness of Afghanistan and Pakistan and having a special envoy for both. But the other elements of the strategy are yet to be described authoritatively. One has heard bits and pieces from leaks, from statements, but as you know, the administration has made a statement publicly that the totality of the strategy will not be crystallized and the president would not have expressed himself until probably sometime at the end of March, before April.
Now, about 18 months ago, you were doing an interview here in the US media. I was listening to it, where you were saying things had improved so much in Afghanistan, and you listed off a number of successes that had been seen, and yet General David Petraeus is now saying it's gone into a downhill spiral. So what's gone wrong in that time?
Well, I think that what it is, it's a mixed situation. There are some positive things that have happened. If you compare Afghanistan now to Afghanistan 6-7 years ago, looking at the number of schools, number of kids going to school, if you look at highways, roads that have been reconstructed, clinics, the national army. But there is no question that on the security situation, things have deteriorated in the course of the last several months and several years indeed. And at the same time, the effectiveness of the government to provide justice, to provide the rule of law, to deal with problems of corruption has not progressed, or in some areas it may have gotten worse. So if you look at it in a comprehensive fashion, there are areas of progress, but without security, clearly everything is at risk, and that has gotten worse.
Ambassador, on this show we allow our viewers to have questions, and I've got David on the line from Sweden. David, what would you like to ask?
I would like to ask, this Obama president, isn't he holding the power of himself, or isn't isn't how they call it, the Jewish lobby, they are holding him? And I want to ask him the same question. Isn't it this is the biggest empire? The Roman Empire is still same Roman Empire now. It's running. Okay. The big fish eating the small fish.
All right, David, I'm going to put that to Master. Basically, I guess a couple of things. One, how influenced do you think that President Obama is going to let himself be by the lobbies? And in this case, I guess what David's getting at is that America has perhaps stretched itself like an empire, and that could be part of the problem.
Well, on the second issue, of course, one of the mistakes that previous preeminent powers have made to overextend themselves or to allow themselves to decay from inside. And for America to preserve its position in the world, it needs to be clearly selective in its military engagement, but at the same time, it needs to pay attention to its own internal economy, education, all the rest of it to maintain its strength.
And to listen to friends, because one thing the US did under the Bush administration was go it alone, and now it seems that General Petraeus has been going around trying to get rally support from Europe.
Well, I think that's a caricature of the US under the previous administration, because indeed if you look at in Afghanistan, for example, it very much was a UN authorized operation, and we have very many countries involved there, including from NATO and elsewhere, so much so that the problem, one of the key problems in Afghanistan is how do you coordinate all these various players contributing, not only governmental but non-governmental. And when I was representing the US in the United Nations, we passed a resolution in the Security Council to authorize the representative of the Secretary General to be the coordinator. It's a tough job, but you're right. That
still
one
dictated,
way,
though. Still dictated by the U.S. largely. Yeah.
Well, I mean, the U.S. is making the biggest contribution, so therefore it has a significant role to play. But very much, as I said, we designated the UN to be the coordinator. You're right that part of the way to manage costs is to have others participate with you. It also brings more legitimacy. It does provide broader support, but I believe that the U.S., even in its weakest point, is stronger than any other country. So it has some responsibility that comes with that preeminence or relative position, and that's manifesting itself in Afghanistan.
Well, so we have Ahmed on the line in the UK. Ahmed, what would you like to ask?
Yeah, hello. I would like to ask Mr. Khalili Saad. Do you think that the occupation of Iraq and Afghanistan is more danger? What is the achievement of the United States for danger? The whole world is danger now.
Okay, so what Ahmed's getting at is that he feels that the world is a more dangerous place since the US got involved with Iraq and Afghanistan.
Well, Ahmed should recognize that for much of the history of recent period, for the last 2-3 centuries, it was Europe that was the center of world problems. It was European conflicts that became even 2 world wars. And in recent time, the center of gravity of problems has shifted southward. Europe has gotten its act together. And now the problems of that region is a problem for the world. And it was the result of the problems of that region that 9/11 happened, in reaction to which the U.S. went into Afghanistan. The case of Iraq has its own circumstances, and we could debate that extensively. I believe that success in Afghanistan, helping Afghans to have a normal country where it's been a country at war for over 30 years is good for the people of Afghanistan, and also given the big challenge of extremism and terror to the world today, Afghanistan and Pakistan helping those countries become normal functioning countries working for their own people is also good for the world now.
Sir, Hussein's on the line from London. Go ahead, Hussein.
Hi, I got a question for Dr. Khalilzad.
Please.
There are rumors inside Afghanistan and outside Afghanistan that Dr. Khalilzad will be a candidate for the forthcoming election, presidential election in Afghanistan.
Thank you. So, it's an interesting question, and it's something that listening to you in interviews you have never ruled out. President Khalilzad, does it sound good?
Well, I've been the president of the Security Council already a couple of times. No, I am not a candidate for the presidency of Afghanistan. I'm not seeking to be the president of Afghanistan. I care for Afghanistan. I'm proud of my Afghan heritage.
Do you think you could do a better job than President Karzai, who of course now is being criticized?
Well, I think he's got a tough job. Afghanistan could do better. The government could do better. When I was there, there is a bit of nostalgia now, because when I was there as ambassador working with President Karzai, it's perceived now, it's evaluated to have gone better, we did better. I think he needs to do better, the government needs to do better, but it's very important to recognize that the international coalition that's there also needs to do better. I think in recent weeks it has become a bit of tit for tat. The coalition through leaks blaming all the problems of Afghanistan on President Karzai putting all the blame on the coalition. In fact, both sides could do better, and I think what's needed is a joint comprehensive strategy for how to help Afghanistan move forward.
As we take a break, let me ask, do you categorically rule yourself out completely?
I've said repeatedly that I'm not seeking to be the president of Afghanistan, but I am I care about Afghanistan as I care about the United States, that I would help Afghanistan. But that doesn't mean that I'm going to help it as a president of Afghanistan. That's not what I'm saying.
I still see a small window open there.
But that I will try to do what I can. I'm thinking about what I could do to be helpful given the situation that is deteriorated in Afghanistan in recent years.
Well, so we're going to take a very short break here. We have more questions and our discussion with Ambassador Zalmay Khalilzad in just a moment. As we pause, let me remind you, you can join the conversation yourself with questions and comments by logging on to livestation.com and entering the chat room. Take a look, you'll see the debate going on in there right now. We'll be right back.